Welcome to Windy City Sports Talk podcast number 2. We are on the week of July 24th, and it's been a busy week around sports, both in Chicago and on the national level. I'm Zach Bernard, along with my host, Sean Sullivan. Sean, how you doing today, bud?
Doing good, man. Long day at work, but I've been looking forward to this all week ever since we got our social networks up and running. It seems like we've had a good reception thus far. So
we've had a great reception. We already have about 80 fans on Facebook and quite a few followers on Twitter, so keep checking those out. WC Sports Talk on Twitter and Windy City Sports Talk on Facebook. Our website will be up and running too later on this week.
And I'm really excited about that. So far what I've seen of it, it looks amazing. So shout out to Zach's sister, Gabby Bernard.
Yeah, Gab, www.flamora.com if you're looking for web design. She does a spectacular job. But we have a lot of sports to talk about, particularly baseball. Of course, as always, we'll start with the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox lost their series against Kansas City 2-1. The last game they lost on a wild pitch by Sergio Santos. And Ozzie went on a pretty interesting rant in that last game against the Royals, didn't he?
And that he did, for the right reasons. He got on the team for being lackadaisical, not having a lot of energy, especially a soft thrower like Bruce Chen, who lately has been having a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. I think I heard on the radio there's a stat like after the 5th inning, he was being batted against like something real high. Like lefties were hitting 280 and righties were hitting 260, so like they're hitting him pretty well. And he went on one of his typical rants where he swears and everything's all bleeped out, but he was spot on. They're not responding the way that they should be, especially now. It's after the All-Star break. It's time to start winning against teams that you should and shouldn't beat. And in this case, Kansas City is a team that they should beat.
And they're not out of it yet. I mean, after that series, they ended up only 4.5 games out of first place. It was realistic that they could still get back into this thing, and currently they're playing Cleveland, and they're currently about to take the series 2 out of 3 games. Obviously, they didn't play yesterday because they were postponed, but when you think about it, this team has all of the tools that they need, and they have all the potential in the world to actually take first place, and they're not playing like a team that can take first place, and Ozzie has every right to be frustrated. He has every right to throw his players under the bus, because this is a better team than what's going on the field.
And it definitely is. They've been underperforming all season. The pitching has been pretty good throughout the whole year. The bullpen was terrible in the beginning. Starting pitching has been pretty good though, and the pitching has been there. The offense just needs to turn it up. They have the tools. I personally think that they will turn it around and they will get it in order and really make a hard run at Detroit, because I think Cleveland is slowly starting to falter off.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to see what Bruce Chen has been doing with Kansas City. I'll always remember Chen being advertised by Skip Carey, Pete Van Wieren on TBS with the Braves as if he was the next great pitcher. He was a great rookie prospect for the Braves. And then ever since maybe 02-03, he's been jumping around the league, never found stability, and suddenly he's in Kansas City, and he's found a second life. His ERA's in the mid-3s, and you can't complain about what he's given that young team.
No, he had a great start this year. I think he started off 5-2 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And, he's just been doing well for a team that will be on the rise within the next few years.
Indeed. Ozzie's also going on the record to say a couple other things this weekend in Cleveland. The biggest statement that he made was saying that things are looking bleak for the White Sox if the fans are counting on Diane Viciedo as their savior. Ozzie would go on the record to say a lot of ridiculous things, talking mostly about himself, but lately this week he's been making a lot of sense, putting his team on the block and also mentioning that a minor league prospect is not going to save this ball club.
And, obviously not. He's someone who has had limited major league experience, and it's... when something goes wrong, a lot of people jump on it to be fixed right away. The thing with baseball, though, is it's not a sport where you can just go out and fix it right off the bat. It takes time. It takes repetitions. It takes, even some luck. Absolutely. Just by bringing in Viciedo isn't going to save anything. I mean, who knows? Maybe he would be great, and maybe he wouldn't. I don't see why they shouldn't bring him up, but for fans to count on him as the missing ingredient is a little silly.
Well, it's what Cubs fans did last year with Starlin Castro. We called him up in early May. The kid's 19 years old, and he doesn't have any experience beyond Double-A. He was tearing the cover off the ball, but we didn't think he'd be ready. It turns out he was very ready. He made the All-Star team this year. He was 5th in Rookie of the Year voting last year. He's been the player that was advertised. The problem is it's a knee-jerk reaction that organizations can't really afford to make, especially considering right now you're in the midst of a playoff race. Mm-hmm. You want to win the American League Central Division. You're only a few games out, especially after beating Cleveland the way you have these last couple days. It's something that you really need to keep your eye on, and you're playing well enough with the tools that you have. And Diane Viciedo, he may be a great baseball player someday, but right now isn't the time to throw him into the fire, because if you put him out there as the one everyone's going to expect to change things, I think people will be disappointed.
I agree. That's too much expectations to place on one kid who has not had enough, licks up here at the big leagues. That's all I'm saying. I think that they should bring him up, give him some exposure, get him some playing time, see if he can contribute at a higher level. But you know what? Who knows?
And another thing that I read on Twitter last night was that Viciedo was taken out of his game in the minor leagues yesterday with an aggravated thumb. Now remember, he broke his thumb earlier in the season, and there was some swelling on his thumb. He was taken out of the game early. They don't know how long he's going to be missing. So I guess Ozzie got his wish. It kind of curbs the expectations of people a little bit. And I agree with you. It'll be nice to see Viciedo up at the major league level. But he's not going to be the savior. People expect him to change everything. And I feel bad for the kid because if he does come up, the expectations that people have are going to maybe hamper the kid's abilities, and you don't want that to happen.
No, definitely not.
In other White Sox news, Adam Dunn sat out earlier in the week with a knee injury. He's been in Cleveland, and he has torched their pitching. Coming into Sunday's game, he had 13 hits at Progressive Field against the Cleveland Indians this year. Compare that to the 17 hits he had at U.S. Cellular Field all season long in his home ballpark. The trade deadline is coming up. Are the White Sox buyers or sellers right now?
I think that they're neither. They're pulling the Switzerland right now. They don't really need anybody because I feel like all the tools that they have right now are capable of turning it around and winning. And they also, I feel like they don't really want to get rid of anybody. I think that they themselves agree and know that they have what it takes to win, and I just don't see them doing anything.
Not many teams in Major League Baseball can boast of a 6-man pitching staff either, and that's pretty impressive because, it's a good problem to have. You have 6 guys who deserve to be in the rotation, and Ozzie did the right thing by putting all 6 of them in the rotation. Nevertheless, the big trade rumor that's going around now is that the White Sox and Cardinals are talking about the possibility of acquiring Colby Rasmus. Now, you and I have a friend, his name's Dan McIntyre, and I remember earlier on in the season, he kept saying how much fun he had watching Colby Rasmus, and this is a huge White Sox fan. I think a lot of White Sox fans would be very happy to have a guy like Colby Rasmus in center field. The question is, do they need him?
It's hard for me to say that because I still feel like the Sox have what it takes. I mean, yeah, they could use him. They do need that production from center field. Alex Rios is not cutting it. He's been piss poor offensively, obviously, and he's been making not the greatest decisions in the outfield based off of reading, fly balls and making the right throws to cutoff men or whichever base that the play needs to go to. And putting Colby Rasmus in center would be an upgrade at this moment, and he's an up-and-coming player. He's young. He'll have time to develop, but I don't really see the Sox doing this, at least right now.
And I wouldn't see the reason either. He's a spectacular player. The problem is that St. Louis will be asking for a king's ransom for him because he is one of their up-and-comers. They're very proud of what he's done at the major league level so far, and it's not going to come easy. So the White Sox would have to give, like last year when they got Edwin Jackson, they gave away Daniel Hudson. He's been spectacular this year for Arizona.
And he was last year.
Absolutely, and we knew that he was going to be a spectacular pitcher. So the St. Louis Cardinals are a very smart organization. There's a reason why they win year in and year out. They're going to expect a lot from the White Sox, and it's a matter of whether or not the White Sox are willing to give that. Ken Williams has proven that he will give that in the past.
And I was just about to touch on that.
But the question is, how much is he going to give this time around?
I'm holding to my guns, and I don't think he's gonna.
All right, sounds good. Let's take a look at the Cubs now. They lost their series to the Phillies 2-1. That's not a real big surprise. They were able to beat Roy Halladay, though, 6-1 on Monday. It was the first time in 63 starts that Roy Halladay did not make it through the 6th inning.
Wow. That's a stat.
Yes, sir. However, they did waste another great performance by Matt Garza. It's very difficult for him these days, and they got killed Wednesday 9-1. It was just one run after another on Wednesday. Mike Waddy has been blaming Starlin Castro and Darwin Barney for their bad play on a missed pop-up on Wednesday.